So without telling anyone, I pretty much for the past 6 months have been building out a social media marketing agency. I know this is the most like 2019 shit of all time. But yeah, a social media marketing agency. And this month we're finally getting enough clients where it's going to equate to 10K in monthly recurring revenue. Now that is revenue, not profit. So I'll get into the margins and stuff in a minute. But yeah, I know you guys have been wanting to see for a really long time, like I secretly built a blah, blah, blah to prove it's not luck. And this is kind of what I've been doing in the background as like a backup if YouTube automation failed, and my YouTube automation was failing. So I had this backup ready, and then we were able to take this on full swing and kind of make this my new main source of business revenue. And by the way, I hope you guys like the glasses. These are the Meta Ray-Bans, so I can literally record first person while I'm talking. I might send this to my editor so he can put it on the screen and so you guys can see this. But yeah, they're pretty cool, and I look a lot more sophisticated with them on. But anyways, yeah, you guys really love the format of like, I secretly built a blah, blah, blah to prove it's not luck. And that's what I did. I secretly built a social media marketing agency to prove it's not luck. And I'm going to walk you through exactly what I did from square zero to get clients, fulfill the service for the clients, and collect and grow the payments. Now, the first thing to know about this is that the most important thing by far in this entire scenario was the fact that I've been working with editors for a long time already, and I already went viral myself. So I essentially had all the prerequisite skills to do a social media marketing agency other than the sales or cold outreach aspect and the fulfillment and social media management aspect. So I essentially already had everything I needed to know other than the sales aspect of building a social media marketing agency. And yeah, that's the most important thing to know, which is that if you have the skills of social media, you can take it in a lot of ways. So there's some people that build a YouTube faceless automation empire with the skills of being able to hire editors and know what goes viral. But there's other people that build social media marketing agencies, and there's many different business models, but all of these pretty much rest on the fact that you know how to go viral and you know how to hire people out to scale things up. And so my process was actually starting all the way back 2 years ago when I started my own juggling channel. And this is where I literally posted videos of myself juggling. So I went through everything you needed to do to be able to scale this up as just a personal brand. So at first, I was literally recording all of these videos of myself juggling just by myself in my room. Then once I made my first dollar online, I figured out how to get an editor. So I acquired that skill and figured out how to train them and how to get them to do exactly what you want for videos. I also knew and had proof that I could go viral myself. And so that's why I was in a really good position to be able to start both YouTube faceless automation or to be able to start a social media marketing agency. So you guys already know about my faceless automation stuff. So now I'm going to walk through all of those steps on how I built my social media marketing agency. So the first step was getting a client. Now I pretty much just referred to Alex Hormozi's Core 4 in order to get new clients. So what is this? It's basically a matrix showing pretty much the only way to get new leads for your business. And there's only really 4 ways that you can get new leads for your business. So you can either reach out to people one-on-one or one-to-many. So those are 2 options in one dimension. And then the 2 options in the other dimension are people who know you and then people who don't know you. So Alex Hormozi says to pretty much only start in one of these and just do that until you max that out and then move on to the next one. So the first one that I realized I would go to is warm outreach. And I recommend this is the place that most people start because this is reaching out to people who are the most likely to buy and who you probably have to reach out to the least amount of them to actually get one person to say yes. And so warm outreaches is literally just going to consist of all of the people in your contact list who you know who may need whatever product or service you're providing. So this would be literally if you just went through everyone's email address that you had, everyone's number that you had saved, everyone that you're friends with on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, literally just reach out to pretty much every single one of them. Now, luckily, I knew in my category, I had a couple people that I actually knew were kind of interested in the service because I juggle and I know a lot of other performers that juggle and don't have a social media presence yet. So for me, that was one of the first most obvious places to reach out to people to. And the first people I did it with, and I'm happy being completely public with this because I already have their testimonial on my Instagram page, which is already public for everyone to see. But the first people I reached out to was actually the Passing Zone. So these are performers. I knew they had some sort of budget because they were winners of America's Got Talent and they've been performing for a really long time. And they do corporate events, which typically pay more. And they didn't have a social media presence. So I literally just warm outreach them. I just texted them on their number. I was like, hey, I'm actually starting up this thing where I manage social media for other people. And the results of me managing it on my own social media are like this. And so I had the credibility there. And that's how I was able to sign up my first client. From there, I was able to get one other person signed up through warm outreach. But eventually, the thing with warm outreach is you run out of leads pretty quickly because there's only so many people that you're friends with on Instagram or whose number that you have that you can text and will actually even need your product or service. So eventually, you run out of that, which is when I went to the next method that I also recommend people do, which is one-to-one with people who don't know you, and that is cold outreach. Now, cold outreach can be really, really rough because you're going to get extremely low response rates, but I knew I had this huge account with 376 followers, and it was in a similar niche to the people I was targeting, right? I was targeting performers, so a lot of them are magicians or jugglers themselves, so they would see my account and think that I'm legitimate, which I am. And so I expected that I would have a much higher response rate from that. So when you're doing cold outreach, one of the most important things is one, having that sort of instant credibility like this, because they don't know you, so they have nothing else to go off of. Otherwise, they're just going to assume you're a scammer. But two, it's actually developing a really good list of people to reach out to who are majority qualified leads if you can get that. Now, don't get me wrong, that is really difficult and it actually requires a lot of creativity to get exactly right. What I ended up doing was I actually looked at the different types of shows that the Passing Zone was on. So I was like, okay, these guys wanted our service. They were on America's Got Talent, Fool Us, and a bunch of these other shows that I know very similar avatars perform at. So I went to ChatGPT and I put together a list of literally every single performer that was on those shows. And then I had pretty much like a virtual assistant go through, find all of these people's Instagrams and DM them from my account so we could reach out to all of those leads. And so just to put into perspective how much better it can be when you have a good list and a credible account, and you can name drop people that they know that you've already done this service for. Here's the numbers. A normal, really good conversion rate from cold outreach would be 0.5%. So that basically means you would need to reach out to 200 people to close one person. The list of performers that I compiled was 450 people, and so far we've closed 9, and we have more that we're still reaching out to at this point. So just to put that in perspective, 9 divided by 450 is 2%. So that's 8 times better than what most people would consider a good conversion rate from cold DM. It essentially means with just 50 DMs, I could sign someone up to my social media marketing agency and get a recurring $749 per month minimum. And I'll get into the structure of my offers as well later. But yeah, that's so far just how many people we were able to close from cold outreach. And what we would do is we would cold outreach the whole list. If they responded, we would start with something pretty clickbaity, like, hey, I just saw your act and I loved it, but I have one question. And when they would respond, then we would personalize it. So then we would say, oh yeah, I just watched your show where you did blah, blah, blah thing. That was insane. But I was just wondering, why don't you post more videos of your routines on social media? And then some of the time they'll say, oh, I would really want to, I just don't know how to edit it myself. Boom, that's how you get the type of client that you want. But yeah, that's essentially what we would do. And then I would book a call with them where I have a pitch deck that we go through explaining how social media can benefit them. And then really asking, out of the things I presented, what is the most important aspect they see in social media? And that's something important I've learned about sales, is that you can't just tell them why it's good. You have to get them to say why they think it's good, because they're not going to believe it unless they actually say it out loud. So instead of me just being like, oh, you should do social media because it'll grow your reach, I'll present some ideas of why I think it would be good. And then I'll say, out of all the ones I've listed today, or maybe there's something else, what do you really think social media could do for you? And that's when they can actually start kind of talking themselves into it. So they'll say, oh, well, I haven't really been able to fill out my shows recently, and I would love to be able to book more tickets, and I just can't seem to get the reach. And I think social media would really help with that. And now when you're on that sales call, you're no longer selling them, 7 social media posts a week. You're not selling them the features. You're selling them the result, which is you will now be able to book tickets to your show and fill out those theaters like you always dreamed of. You see how that has a way different effect when you actually talk about the dream result that they mentioned rather than the features that the product or service you have is. And then in terms of our offer, and I want to mention this about sales calls as well, is it looks something like this. Now we're actually going to update the prices and I'm going to explain why in a minute. But basically what I used to do on sales calls was I used to present all 3 of these options to the people and then just let them choose. And the thing is, when you do this, people almost always just choose like the lowest or the medium one because they don't even know which one they would benefit from. And here's the thing, we've literally designed this plan so that this one is like not really that good, but it's just affordable so we can get people in the door. And I'll also explain the extreme benefits of that in a minute as well. But what we started doing is in our presentation, instead of presenting these 3 options, we would just present one option. So this is what our deck looked like. I would talk a little bit about myself so they know who I am and that I'm legit, and then some of our past clients, just in case they know them. We talk about the benefits of social media, but that's when I really make sure that they qualify and then ask them where they're currently at with social media and where they'd like to go. And then the setup is basically, okay, well, that's where you are, and you told us you wanted to get to a place where XYZ dream outcome, and that's where we take you. And then you price anchor, so you say, and while most other agencies will charge $3,000 all the way to like $10,000 a month for this same service, at Fly Media, it's only $14.99. So I have what it comes with here so they can read it in case they're curious about anything, but really I'm presenting it as the results that they get from it. And notice, I'm not presenting them with multiple different options, I'm just presenting them with our growth plan. And this is the plan that I really think is the best value for performers. And so if they have the budget, I highly would recommend this one actually. And so this is still ethical because if I was recommending this to a friend, I would much more strongly recommend this plan to them than the basic plan, because this plan has a lot more value in it because you're getting way more videos and you're getting a portion of the ad revenue and more. I don't need to get into it, but you guys get the idea. And so we always just start with this, and you won't even believe, I'll just say this. And a lot of the time people just say, okay, sure. Like there's not even any reluctance or hesitation. They're like, yeah, that sounds reasonable. When can I get started? You know what I mean? That's literally all it is. And so those types of reactions obviously don't happen every time, but when I get those types of reactions, that's a telltale sign to me that it's time to raise the price, because people are willing to go forward pretty much instantly, and we're getting yeses from too many people. It's time to start raising the prices until some people start saying no. But then what I do is if they're reluctant here, I say something like, gotcha. Well, it seems like this is something that you want. Is it more that you're just concerned that you can't actually afford this, even though you really want it? Or that you're not really sure it will get you to dream outcome and you're not really sure if it's worth the price with the chance that it takes you to get there? If they're skeptical of the value, there's other things that I can throw in and at least talk about with them to try to calm some of their fears. Like they might say something like, oh, I really want to do this, but I just don't want to be locked into something long term. And that's when I can address that by saying, we let you cancel month to month, so there's no worry about that. Or if they say, well, I'm just not sure if it'll work, what I can say is, okay, look, what we can do is the first month as kind of a tryout. You'll still pay the full price, but you can cancel at any time. And let's think best case, worst case for a second. The worst case is you get these 30 professionally edited videos. You can use them however you want for promo, and they'll always be on your social media profile. So if someone goes to your profile, even if they don't get a lot of views, at least you have those professional videos there. Would you agree that alone probably isn't a bad deal for $14.99? But let's think best case, you get all of those things as well, but you also get the millions of views, the increased bookings, the XYZ dream outcome that you mentioned, and you're making back enough money from the investment that you're able to afford those next months with us. That's what I'll typically do if it's a value objection. But if it's a price objection and they literally say, I really want this, but I just can't pay $14.99 a month, what I'll do is I'll say, okay, well, we do in some rare circumstances let people go onto our basic plan. I will warn you though, it has a lot less of the features than our growth plan, so it's worse value. Like you won't be getting as much bang for your buck, and we also don't get your posts up on Facebook or Snapchat, but we can still at least get you started off and give you that regular management so that one day when this takes off enough, it'll be worth it for you to switch to our growth plan. Now we do that for two reasons. One, that way we at least make money out of people who would have otherwise just been a complete no. That's known as a downsell, and I much prefer doing these sales pitches as a downsell process rather than an upsell process, because this way you're actually distributing the right plan to the right clients, right? The higher budget clients are going to do better from the bigger plan, and they have the money to spend on it, so it's better to distribute that to them first, and then for the people who can't really afford it, then knock them down a tier or two, but you're still making money from them. But the second thing it does, and this is why I actually think having a low tier plan is actually very valuable, is we have already gotten 2 people paying the $14.99 a month plan as a referral from someone that we signed up on the basic plan. So what happened was we signed him up on the basic plan for $7.49 a month. I was like, honestly, I even cut him a discount just on the first month because I wanted to get him on board. He seemed skeptical. So I was like, you know what? Let's just cut you a discount. Let's get you this first month and show you what we can do. And we're barely making a profit on him. Honestly, I don't even know if we're profitable on him. We might even be losing a little bit of money, at least for that first month. But what happened was a bunch of his friends started seeing his posts on social media and started asking him, who is doing that for you? And then he said, oh, these guys are doing it for me. And if you want to work with them too, here's their contact. And I kid you not, referrals are by far the easiest closes you'll ever ever have, because they already trust you, they already want the service. You pretty much don't even have to do any selling. You just tell them the price and they're pretty much ready to go. And so that's what happened with the referrals. And so now from one guy that we did that for, we have 2 more people on this growth plan, pretty much without having to do any of the cold outreach or the standard marketing practices that we have. And this guy's incentivized to do it because we have a program where if he refers enough people, we can either cut him back some of the revenue and basically make his plan cheaper, or just push him up to a higher plan for the same price of his basic plan. And so that, to me, is really the value of having one plan that's at least affordable, because it brings the people in the door to spread the word about the main plan, which they're incentivized to do because they get more out of it when they refer people to the main plan rather than the affordable plan. So that's the breakdown of the front end of the business, right? Getting people in the door and getting people to buy the product, and pretty much my entire walkthrough of how we did that, with again kind of me showing that I can do this without it being luck, because I have all the prerequisite skills and things needed to do this. And so if you had those skills and connections and outreach methods as well, you would be able to get at least similar results. But that's only on the front end side. So what about the whole back end side and getting editors and finding people who can fulfill the service and making sure the clients are happy, all of that? Well, that honestly for me is by far the harder part, because there's already people on the front end that I know want the service and are willing to pay. The question is, who's going to actually do all of the fulfilling of that service, and how do you stay in contact with the client every day, and how do you do that when you have 10, 20, 30 clients? And so here's the answer to that. The first role that you obviously need to fulfill a lot of these services is an editor. So for an editor, there's kind of many ways to go about this, and I'm kind of able to get people now because I have a personal brand and people already know me, already know the channel, and they're fans and they want to work with me, and more importantly, they know that I make enough money that I can pay them, and obviously that is important. But let me give you the outline of how you have to go about hiring an editor, and then I'll give you the specifics on how to actually do it. So the outline is basically what you're looking to do is to find people who you can provide a better opportunity to than what they already have. So let's say the most that you can pay an editor is $1,000 a month. Like, you're literally not making enough money to do more than that. What you should ideally be looking for is an editor who's making like $500 a month and they're still working their ass off right now. And so you can instantly provide them a better opportunity than what they currently have and get them to instantly switch over to you. So what you can bring the editor is actually the most important thing. And important to note on this as well, it doesn't have to just be money. So I know a lot of people that are making good money from their job, but they hate it because their boss is oppressive. So you don't need to just say, oh, I'm going to give you a better salary. You just need to find people, whatever opportunity they're in as a whole, you can do better than. Again, just to prove it's not even about the amount of money sometimes. Sometimes someone's making like $5K a month, but it's a really unstable source of income. It's YouTube automation, and sometimes the channels do really well and sometimes they do really bad. So you can say, hey, look, I can offer you $1,000 a month, but you're getting it no matter what. And I'll guarantee that you get this $1,000 for the next 6 months, no matter what happens. And they might say, honestly, I'd rather that. And so that's another example of how you can give them a better opportunity. But the core thing I want you guys to realize here is that your job as a manager and as someone hiring someone is to look at how you can improve their lives, because if you can do that, then they'll want to stay with you and do the best possible work for you and then grow with you as a business. So as the business grows, you'll be able to pay them more and they'll want to stick with you because you were the one that was always from the very beginning, and hopefully as long as the business is alive, looking out for them as an employee and asking them and figuring out what you would have to do for them to consider you the best out of all the opportunities that they have. So with that all being said, now how to actually approach getting an editor. Now again, I just want to let you guys know the way I go about this is a little bit different now because I have a bunch of people that are editors that all want to work with me because of my personal brand. But before I had a personal brand of any kind, this is the process that I did. I went to this Discord right here. It's literally called discord.gg/video editors. And I scrolled down and I went to create a request and I put in a paid request. So I put in a request to pay someone to essentially do XYZ thing. And you would essentially just fill this out. And typically what I do is I ask editors to make a sample for me. Now on this server, I think they require you to pay for a sample, and honestly that's fair. And most of the time I'm more than happy to pay editors for samples because I think that is work and that is effort on their part. And it means that you're only gonna sort through people who have a good portfolio. So if their portfolio is shit, you're not gonna ask them to make a sample, and so that way you're not wasting their time as well, since you actually have to pay to get the sample from them. But you kind of have to make a document like this. So we make a document called viral short form video creation. We give the objective, which is basically to make viral shorts from long form videos. And typically I like to give a lot of the context. So I'll say here, we run this agency, we help this avatar, and we need editors to be able to do this. Then I show them some samples of videos that we've already made that look really good. So I would always try to make sure you have a sample ready so the editor kind of knows the general style that you're looking for. And then you just let them cook. So we literally gave them a 45-minute routine from one of our clients, and we basically said make one viral short out of this, and we just test them. We give them some assets to work with, like some songs that they can use to try to make it more viral that we typically use, or some hints or some help with the captions. But in general, let them try to cook to see if they can actually do it the way you want. Now, once they get one right, you can make some tweaks on it, but this sample should be pretty telling whether they can actually do what you need them to do or not. And if they can't do what you need them to do, pretty much just throw them out. I mean, it's just not worth it. It's not worth wasting the time. And specifically, I also like asking kind of a plethora of questions to see a little bit more about them. So I'll typically ask these 6 questions right here. I'll say, where are you from? How old are you? These 2 are both important to me because where they're from kind of lets me know whether I'll be able to provide them a better opportunity. And then age lets me know, are they early into the game or are they probably more experienced? These aren't the only things to go off of, but they are generally good markers. Then I ask for what their English proficiency is because they need to be decently proficient in English to be able to work with me. I ask for their availability to call because if they can't call, that can sometimes be much less efficient forms of communication, so that's pretty important. And then once again, I ask how much they're currently making per month. So that's kind of my base of if I can provide them a better opportunity, but depending on their answer, I go more into that later. And then I ask their availability to work full time. So obviously, if you're running an agency, you don't want people that can't come on full time because if they can never come on full time, you're just wasting your time getting an editor who's going to be able to take on 1 or 2 clients and then can't really do that much for your agency. So you want them to be able to work full time so that they can grow and age into the position and ultimately just get paid a big ass salary for taking on all those clients. So that's essentially the process that I have of hiring. And then the last kind of thing that you need in a social media marketing agency is the social media manager. So if you're going to have, let's say, an editor who's Indian, you're very rarely going to be able to have that editor talking to the actual client. That's not their job. And often a lot of people who edit, they're not really the most social people of all time. So they don't want to go out and talk to these people. They kind of just want to sit in their room and edit, which reasonable. And so you kind of need someone to bridge that gap and also give an internal review to these videos. So this by far was the hardest position for me to find, but I did find someone who I think is a good fit for the role. But what you're looking for is probably someone who's American, young, because they're probably not going to be making that much money if they're young and they probably don't have that many better opportunities. And overall, someone who's pretty social and has a good idea of the social media videos because they're going to need to be checking over the videos that the editors make and having some sort of internal review of if the videos are good or not. This person is also going to be responsible for the posting for the clients across platforms, and there's kind of 2 ways to do this. At first, the way that I did this was with repurpose.io. So we would just hook up all of our clients' accounts to our repurpose, and then what we would do is we would manually upload the video to YouTube. They would just add us as an editor on their YouTube channel so we'd be able to upload, and then we'd set up automations to all these other platforms. So we'd post on YouTube, it would set up an automation that when you posted it, it would go to TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, etc. This is a pretty good software and pretty affordable for being able to do this for clients. So if you want to use Repurpose, I'll leave the link to it in the description. It's honestly a absolutely fire tool, and I still use it for all of my personal social medias. But now for my social media marketing agency, I use a tool called OneUp. It's a little nicer. It's kind of like Hootsuite, and it lets the client connect all their social media platforms without having to log in to OneUp themselves. And then you can schedule it and get their approval on clips. So it just makes all of that a little bit easier. So that's why I use OneUp, and I'll also leave the link to OneUp in the description if you want to use that as well. But yeah, that's basically the process. And then the only last finishing touch is making sure that the social media manager is doing regular outreach. So we set up an SOP, otherwise known as a standard operating procedure, where basically the social media manager has to reach out to the clients twice a month, basically to check how things are going on. And then depending on the response, make an ask. So twice a month, the person checks in, right? The first time will be on the 15th of every month, and they just check in and we'll say something like, hey name, just wanted to let you know we achieved XYZ result, and include a screenshot in there. We did this for you recently, and we hope all is well. How are you feeling about our services so far? Now we wait to see what they say. If they say something negative, then you say, I'm sorry to hear that. How could we improve? We'd really like to make this the best service of all time for you. And then you try to make the improvements. If they say something positive, that's the best time to make an ask. Because if you just said, how are we doing? And they're like, oh my God, you are doing a phenomenal job. Then you can actually make an ask. You could say something like, oh, well, if you actually wanted this month free, we can do that for you. All you'd have to do is just prepay for the next year of services. And that's turning a $14.99 a month to a $20K for the whole year up front, which means when you have the cash flow like that, you can actually start acquiring more customers much quicker. But there are 4 different types of asks that we would generally make, and here they are. But again, this is only after they say that they're happy with the services. So right after they say I'm happy, we will ask for one of these 4 things. The first is an affiliate. So what we do is we'll remind them of the benefits that they would get if they bring someone else on. And then this is also pretty crucial. Instead of asking, do you know anyone else? You just ask, who else do you know who would benefit from this service? This will cause them to think of a name, and when they think of the name, then you get in touch in a 3-way group chat with that person and have them book a discovery call. And if they get the referral, then you're able to give them a better deal as well. So it's a win-win-win for everyone. The second is a video testimonial. So if they just said they're happy with the service, that's a perfect time to ask for a video testimonial from the client. The third is a potential upsell. So if they say, I'm really happy, then we can say, oh, well, we think you would get even better results on our other plan. Would you want to upgrade to that right now? You won't have to do anything. We'll just add it to your invoice. So that's the third ask. And then the fourth ask is, as I said before, the prepaying. So trying to get the year of payment up front rather than having to go month by month and getting worse cash flow. So we basically make one of those 4 asks twice a month. One is on the 15th and one is on the 1st of every month. And the 1st of every month, they get a report of the stats that they got from the social media platforms that they were posting on. And so we give that report through OneUp, which is one reason that I liked it a little bit more than Repurpose. And so that is pretty much from scratch how I built a social media marketing agency to 10K a month in revenue in pretty much 6 months. And I'd say a lot of our clients actually only got signed up in the past 1 to 2 months. So yeah. And by the way, I did want to give you an insight on margins. So I'll just show you what it looks like. So let's say we sign up a client for $14.99 a month. That means we're going to be posting for them every single day. So an editor would normally get paid probably somewhere between $3 to $10 per reel, depending on how good they are, how many clients they have, and how long they've been with us. Currently, our top editor is at 6.5 per reel. So he makes $6.5 per reel. Times that by 30, that comes out to about $195. Let's just call it $200. So 200 goes to the editor. And then our social media manager, we're going to start at $1,500 a month just as a base salary, but he's going to be able to take on 10 plus clients at that salary. So that really means another $150 per client. And so right there, our margin is 1.1K. It might end up being a little lower or a little higher than that, depending on how many clients our social media manager takes on and how new or old or reliable the editor is. And so that kind of changes how much they get paid per client. But that's the general outlook of how we do things. Now, keep in mind, this is just gross profit. There are also a lot of fixed costs because we have like a Google Workspace subscription so that clients can upload their footage. We have a subscription to OneUp, which is like hundreds of dollars a month. So there's a lot of other costs that go into this. But in terms of just the cost of fulfilling the direct service for the client, that's how much it costs. So yeah, that's the full transparent insight into building an SMMA from scratch. And again, I don't really think this is that much different than YouTube automation. They're honestly kind of very, very similar side hustles. Really, the only difference is actually the skill of sales and bringing new clients in the door. Because with YouTube, it's completely permissionless. Like you can just start posting and you don't need anyone to tell you anything. But with social media marketing agencies, you actually need to go out and find clients. And a lot of you I know won't want to do that because you're like, I just want to sit in my room and do it and not have to deal with people. But for those of you that are willing to do it, it can be a really good thing because it means there's an added barrier of entry that a lot of other people aren't going to want to do. That if you're just willing to take that step and actually DM people or actually hop on a sales call and actually talk to clients, now you can start an agency that most other people, even if they have the rest of the requisite skills, still won't do. So yeah, that's basically my full guide of a social media marketing agency, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys don't already know, my mission with this channel is to bring complete transparency to the make money online space. So I'm literally documenting entirely from scratch how I'm building this social media marketing agency, and you guys can kind of watch the whole process. And again, to prove that it's not just complete luck, I actually built this without even showing anyone my unfiltered YouTube channel. And so yeah, with that being said, if you really want to support the mission of transparency, there's 3 things that you can do, and I'll rank them right now from easiest to hardest. First, leave a like on this video and subscribe. That's a really easy way to support the mission of transparency. Number 2, join my free Discord with 18,000 members and counting. That is basically fully about learning how to make money online, and actually join this Discord and drop your best money making sauce. And that's honestly what makes us the best community, is that people are actually transparent on here. And then third, if there's a side hustle that you want to learn how to make money online, I can only teach so many things, but I have a free website teaching a lot of these different side hustles from experts that are actually transparent. So all you have to do for that is go to moneymindacademy.io. Right now we have a waitlist set up, but it will be launching very, very soon. Potentially it'll even be launched before this video goes out. So make sure to check that out and join my free online academy to learn different side hustles that are not just taught by me, but taught by experts in different side hustles, so you can figure out which side hustle you actually want to do to learn how to make money online. With that being said, as always, thank you guys all so much for watching the video. I'll catch you all in the next one, and peace.